What a wasted.
Assalamualaikum Firdaus. How are you?
Waalaikumsalam, Hafiq. Alhamdulillah, I am good and feel blessed today.
You seem to look not satisfied. What are you reading about in the newspaper, by the way?
Yes, I am disappointed with what is currently happening in Malaysia with regards to the economy and its system. There are many corruption happening here and there in the governance. Do you know that Malaysia is ranked 62 among the 182 countries in the world in the corruption index? Malaysia dropped 5 spots in the ranking, and among the selected Islamic countries, Malaysia ranked 6 after Dubai, Qatar, Brunei, Oman, and Saudi Arabia.
It seems that I can relate this to the topic that I have just recently learned, which is efficient in economic governance.
What do you mean by economic governance? Can you explain the details to me?
Economic governance is only a subset of good governance, which is referring to all of the regulations that make up the overall framework for economic activity. For an example, transparency, accountability, non-discrimination, and etc. It is similar to rules and regulation a leader should abide in order to be a good Khalifa.
Wait a minute. I can see where this is going. Have you come across Al-Hisbah?
Yes, I have once read an article regarding Al-Hisbah. It plays an important role in ensuring that Sharia thoughts and ruling are followed generally by the whole community in social and economic activities. But practically, how can this Al-Hisbah be applied in the discussion in economic governance?
Before I go into deeper about the importance of Al-Hisbah in economic governance and how it can be applied, let me first explain to you the concept of Al-Hisbah. According to Islamic law, the term Al-Hisbah refers to the practices of the responsible party in terms of reviewing, administering, coordinating, and ensuring that all of one's work is in accordance with the principle set forth in al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahyi anil munkar, which is command the good and forbid the evil. In addition, a number of intellectuals have provided definition of Hisbah, including Al-Nasir al-Haq, who stated that Hisbah is a complete expression of the judicial institution, which is based on the understanding of the Tawhid of Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Also, one of the famous Islamic scholars, Ibn Khaldun, described Hisbah as the responsibility of encouraging the performance of good deeds and preventing the commission of ill deeds. In conclusion, Hisbah could be defined as a government institution that was given to an appointed ruler but afterwards transferred to a special officer named al-Muhtasib, who is in charge for the supervising economic, religious, health, and urban administration related activities. This regulation is intended to ensure that all actions are carried out in accordance with Islamic law, and it will serve to penalize anyone who is found guilty of violating this regulation. By the way, do you know that this Hisbah has been practiced since the Caliphate era? During the era of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he permitted everything about the institution of Al-Hisbah that the Prophet had started to carry on as it had been before. He only not commanded people to participate in the activity of Hisbah, but also to on the rule of Hisbah himself. The activity of Hisbah were not fully put into practice until Umar al-Khattab was in power. Umar realized that the work of Hisbah affects every facet of human life, so he had to go for supervision. He endeavored to ensure that even neighbors were kind to one another, and he was responsible for the welfare and safety of his subjects. Next, during the time that Osman al-Affan served as Caliph, he was responsible for one of the most important contributions that Islam has ever received, and that was protecting the Holy Quran from being corrupted in any way. This activity is counted as one of Hisbah's activities. Caliph Osman also made an effort to educate people about Islamic doctrine and spread its influence throughout the empire. Osman devoted a significant portion of his time and energy to preaching to the prisoners of war, and as a result of his efforts, many of the prisoners converted to Islam. Ali bin Abi Talib, the fourth successor of the prophets, did not lag behind in implementing the action of Hisbah during his time. He was responsible for Hisbah's actions at the central level, while the governors were responsible in their individual provinces. In addition, Hisbah's activity included both religion and secular pursuits. These include matters pertaining to Tawheed, Ibadah, business dealing, and the morality of the Ummah as a whole.
Look, I just found an article talking about how we practice Hisbah in contemporary era. Firstly, as mentioned, Hisbah is being practiced in administration, business, and economics. However, in Surabaya, Indonesia, there has been an unethical transition in doing businesses or trading in traditional markets, such as sellers who decrease the scales, offering non-fresh chicken, ham, and harmful chemicals that are mixed in food, such as meatballs or frozen fish. Meanwhile, in terms of financial access, many vendors continue to obtain money from loan sharks, according to an article by Anwar on the role of Al-Hisbah in the implementation of business ethics in traditional market. This clearly showed that the appearance of Hisbah institution is there, but the public isn't aware and take it seriously.
That's very informative as I gain new knowledge today. But that is in Indonesia. What about Malaysia?
In Malaysia, an institution with the name of Hisbah once operated in Terengganu in 1999. However, today most of the institutions that perform the function as you mentioned earlier, Al-Amri bil-Ma'ruf wal-Nahi al-Munkar, are no longer called Hisbah, but instead have their own name, organization, and approaches. This institution also function differently from each other. They work separately with different goals and vision according to their states and places. For an example, for the states, Islamic Religious Department is Jain, and for Selangor is Jais, and followed by Jaib, Jaij, Maiwap, Maim, Mines, and many more. For every state, they work separately. It can be seen that Malaysia failed to fully incorporate the concept of Hisbah in governing the country. Thus, it might lead to several issues in governing such as corruption. Do you agree with me?
Yes, I do. And I can conclude that Hisbah is an element of supervision that is fundamental to human life, especially to the preservation of the environment for the benefit of the general community. It has its own role to ensure that the environment is always in the best condition for the benefit of all parties. The role of the Al-Hisbah institution were in line with the requirements of the Al-Maqasid al-Sharia, namely to protect the religion, to protect the life, to protect the mind, to protect the lineage, and to protect the property. Thus, the peace of minds, the balance of thoughts, and the survival of future generations will be obtained through the preservation of the environment from contaminated elements.
Wow, I totally agree with you. Thank you, Brother Firdaus, for that wonderful and fruitful discussion.
My pleasure. Thank you for sharing all the information as well, Hafiq. Hope to see you again.
Assalamualaikum. Bye.
Bye.